retrospect, my happiest years on there on Saturday Night Live were before that. When I was doing those characters and little stuff, like I did this New York Times thing, I break down the New York Times. Like that was more my style. Doing jokes, one punchline, wait, pause, newscast.
Yeah.
Not my style. You know what I mean?
And it's also one of those things that it kind of looks easy to the people who don't know. People that are watching, like, well, he's got jokes in front of him. Doesn't have to memorize. So people, I think, that normally watch that, and if one joke bombs on Weekend Update, people at home are like, come on.
Yeah, it's a style for certain people. It is easy. In a certain way, it is easy in that it's a self-contained world, but not for my style of my style of comedy. But it is. If you have the right style, it can be really good, you know?
Yeah, well, your stuff is to comment on things.
Exactly, and that wasn't right for that, you know? I didn't realize it at the time, luckily.
Yeah, luckily.
So you're around. Only in retrospect, I go, and it was just when the internet came out. Like when people, not when it came out, but when people started commenting.
Yeah, we're messing.
So I was one of the first people to get hammered on that fucking internet. And I mean, and more than them used to read it. They figured like, hey, this is like the mind of the public. And they're reading all the shit, and I'm like, I would just read it every week, and then, you know, since then nothing can hurt me really.
You go into Lauren's office, and he's on his first message board.
Yeah.
Look at this.
Yeah. It was brutal. But, you know, it is brutal now. Everyone's used to it now.
Oh, yeah. Everybody's used to it. And we've, you know, had the opportunity to meet the people who write those things. And they're like, these fucking people right here. They're just the worst.
Yeah, it got pretty, it was interesting. You know?
Yeah, but at first, everybody did treat it like it was New York Times.
Yeah, like it was New York. I mean, they would just sit there and go, hey, this is the public speaking.
Yeah. And people are going, Punchy 368 thinks you're terrible. You know, and you're like, who is he? What's the background?
Yeah. He must be somebody if he can actually get on.
You're right.
He's like an exclusive club. It's like, get on fucking on there. His name up there. It was more President TV credit, right?
So fairly quick into this, you're like, it's not for me, but...
No, I didn't know that.
Oh, you didn't know?
Over. Like I said, I wasn't aware, thank God. But when it was over, I was like, that was kind of strange. But I mean, but when it ended, it was like, I started to look at it and go, it's not necessarily my format, you know.
So was it a thing where Lauren decided it wasn't your format? Or?
I think it was, I think we both decided. I mean, it's hard to say really what, it was sort of like a parting of the ways, like, yes, sir, like a bow. And, but I mean, he was definitely... He wasn't like, when I was like, hey, man, maybe I should leave, he wasn't like grabbing my leg. No.
You can't do this. The show. This is what happened when Chevy left. This is terrible.
All right, we're on out. Yeah.
But he kind of stayed in your corner after you left.
He was always great. I mean, look, he hired me as a writer when I bombed at the audition, and then he got me on the air, and then he got me on Update. I mean, you know, it was pretty good.
And then when you did the short thing with NBC after that, was he involved in that in any way? Or?
He was the guy that put it together.
The guy who put it together. So that had to be strange, I know, to sell what you were doing with the Colin Quinn show to NBC, even for the amount of time they got it on. It was a very strange thing to happen.
Yeah, I think, you know, in retrospect, I can't believe it was on for three episodes. It was truly, I could just imagine what I know of networks, they must have been fucking horrified.
Right. Yeah.
There's no way.
Yeah. I mean, it's one thing even if you got that at 11:30 or 12:30.
Yeah.
But what time were you on?
9 o'clock.
Yeah, it felt incredibly early.
Yeah.
For that show to be on television.
Yeah, we're on a 9 or 9:30, I think, right? It's a Fear Factor.
Yeah, and you pretty much came out swinging, right? It just felt like you were swinging hard.
I mean, I was very proud of that show.
Yeah, it was really a different thing to see on.
Yeah.
What was the whole concept behind that? How were you able to pitch that?
The concept was what became Tough Crowd, but I mean, the concept was to get all the... Because I would be watching these comedians. I feel like the world, and I feel like it's even worse. I thought it was going to get better. I feel like it's fucking worse.
Right.
But I felt like the whole world is being politically correct, especially the media. So everything they said was either sensitive or it was just... Everything they said was so, like... Just like the right thing to say, but that's fine for certain things. It's not good for fucking comedy.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so I felt like everybody was always on the right. And then I'd go to the Comedy Cellar, and people would be on stage just everybody would be saying what people were really feeling.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like the secret little things that everybody, you know what I mean? Like true feelings about humanity and everybody's, you know, just real feelings about everything. And then upstairs at the table, it was worse. It was just, we'd sit there and insult each other, and it was just godless, is the only way to describe the table. And then I was like, you know, it's such a breath of fresh air, and you don't see this except in the comedy set, except in the club. Every time you walk through, and you had to use the bathroom at the comedy set, so you're always walking through. But the bathroom was through the club, so I was like, man, I wish I could get this on TV. And then we got it on. I was so proud. But after 3 episodes, they were like, oh, we didn't sign up for this.
It really is interesting, though, because, again, you're brutal. But even in the stuff like I saw Comedian, the thing
right.
does. And I hope that you guys all get to see this, because everything that Colin's talking about now about comedy, you see Seinfeld doing, and Colin's working with him on it. But it's really like one of the most human sides of Jerry. It's like the not stage Jerry, not the TV Jerry.
Right.
When he's sitting there, he is one of the guys.
Yeah.
When he's hanging out with you. It's a really interesting thing to see.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And that's what it was supposed to. That's what I loved about the NBC show. But more even in Tough Crowd, there were certain people that would just be themselves, and like, they weren't trying. Like I always bring up the examples of Nick DiPaolo and Patrice O'Neill, who of course at first the network's like, well, those guys are not that likable. And I'm like, I know. That's because they're not advertising themselves as likable guys. They advertise themselves as funny.
Right.
So that they were being themselves, not trying to phony it up and be like, hey guys, like me, you know, and just being funny on their own terms. Like there's something to be said for that too, you know.
Oh,
even though if they heard this, both of them probably think, I'm very likable. What's he talking about? You know, they're deluded.
Right. They need to know.
They'd be like, what? What's he talking about?
Well,
that could be a little harsh sometimes.
But that's the great thing about that it's one thing to put together 6 minutes for the Tonight Show, and that's a really great thing. But for a person just to sit here the way you're being today, being funny off the top of your head, is whatever the magic comes from, I think. You know what I mean? Like, that's the gift part of it.
Sure, and the years of doing it, of course, too. I mean, you know, anybody's comfortable. I mean, you know, at this point, after this many years, if you can't be somewhat funny.
Get out.
But yeah, it's a combination. Like I said, like the guy I was telling you about, Al from Long Island, it was so funny. I don't know if he could ever do it, but I bet if he had trained for 20, I mean, guy was like a genius. He'd come in with a 25-minute story. But, you know, from this thing, and it was always genius.
Well,
I mean,
Brian Regan was telling me the same thing sitting here one day, where he was saying that
I'm not a fan of Brian.
Well, no one is. And you'll be glad to know his Unmasked was just awful. Never got a laugh. But he came up with the thing that some of the funniest people have just never tried to actually do comedy.
That's right.
Funny and comedian is not always the same exactly.
No,
one is the craft, and you know the other is whatever you get.
Yeah, and there's plenty of guys that are not that funny that became comedians because they knew that craft and they went up there and worked it.
They worked their craft, and then also some of them, and we've had them on the show, just happen to be really good business people. You know what I mean?
That's great. But you see why that's funny? I hate to break down comedy. It's funny because he goes, we've had him on the show, they just, like he went back to the sentence. He threw it in.
I almost dropped his name. I almost slipped his name.
Yeah, well, there's always a few. But I mean, yeah, you're right. I mean, I think there's so many funny people that just, you know, like you said, they didn't bother with it or whatever reason.
Well, when you did the Colin Quinn show, did you think this thing could take off, or you like, we're just slipping it in?
Everything I know, you don't understand, and it's probably what's kept me alive. Right. To this day, when I write projects, I'm like, this is going to get made.
Yeah.
And then they don't make them. I mean, and that show, I was like, of course they're going to pick it up. It's new. Nobody does anything like it. You know, but it's like there's no way they're not going to do it. There's no way they're not. Now, only in the past year or two have I gotten kind of like negative about like what the networks and like I'm starting to really take them seriously. That they really are scared or whatever they are. They really are, you know, they refuse to do things based on ideology or based on fear of like repercussion. Like I used to think if it's funny, they know they don't have that much funny shit. They're gonna do it.
Right.
They can't afford to be that picky when it comes to funny. But they'd rather do stuff that's mildly humorous and not get themselves in some kind of, you know, I feel like it's almost like a psychological debate with themselves where they have to reassess what they think fucking life is.
Sure.
You know?
Well, I also think...
Can you tell I spend a lot of time alone thinking about these?
It does almost sound like a Unabomber.
That's what they are slowly driving me towards. If they don't step up soon, that seems like the inevitable fucking end.
Do you know how valuable this interview will then become? This will be great. I'll be on Good Morning America.
Yeah.
I felt something. I should have called. I should have called someone.